She limped between cafeteria tables at the VA hospital, carrying trays no one would help her with. The crippled nurse, Dr. Halstead, mocked behind her back every shift. When the Vice Admiral of Naval Special Warfare walked in for an official visit with his Belgian Malinois, nobody expected that disciplined war dog to break formation for the first time in 8 years of service. He ran straight to her, laid his head in her lap, trembling. And the 4-star admiral who commanded the deadliest units in the Navy went pale, because 12 years ago, in a valley in the Hindu Kush, this woman pulled him out of an ambush with her own body shredded by shrapnel. And the puppy she trained before that deployment never forgot the scent of the woman who raised him. When the shooting started in that cafeteria minutes later, every soul in the room would learn that the limping nurse with the prosthetic leg had been the silent legend of naval special warfare. If this story moves you, hit that like button right now, comment below telling me which city you are listening from, and subscribe to Silent Badge's stories, because this is just the beginning, and you belong here. Welcome to the channel. The tray was too heavy. Erin Vance felt the muscle in her thigh seize before she had taken 3 steps from the serving line. Not the prosthetic side. The real one. Always the real one. The one that had to do double the work, because the carbon fiber leg below her right knee could not feel the floor. She kept walking. Slow, measured. The way she had been taught to walk through a field that might be wired. Heel to toe. No wasted motion. Eyes scanning without scanning. 3 steps. Pause. 3 steps. Pause. Behind her, somebody laughed. "Hey, Vance, you need a forklift?" She did not turn around. The voice belonged to Dr. Halstead, ex-Army surgeon. Washed out of his commission for reasons nobody in the cafeteria knew, but everyone could guess. Halstead made the same joke every Tuesday. Tuesday was salad bar day. Tuesday was when she carried the heaviest trays because the residents working the rehab wing always asked her to grab their lunch. Erin kept walking. The cafeteria of the Roy A. Webster VA Medical Center stretched out in front of her like an obstacle course. Polished concrete floors, long metal tables, 63 people eating lunch on a Wednesday afternoon. She had counted on the way in, the way she always counted. Habit. Old habit. The kind that did not die just because you put on bright blue scrubs instead of woodland marpat. 22 feet to her usual table by the window. She made it 12 before the kid at the orthopedic table stood up to help. Resident Kowalski, 2nd year. Decent enough. Halstead's voice stopped him. "Sit down, Kowalski. She does not need help. She likes the attention." Kowalski sat down. Erin felt the heat climb the back of her neck. Felt the blast scar there pulse once, the way it always pulsed when blood pressure spiked. 12 years, and the scar tissue still remembered. She set the tray on her table without spilling the soup. Sat down. Adjusted the prosthetic with one hand under the table. A habit so reflexive she did not notice she was doing it. Pulled her chair in. Picked up her spoon. Across the cafeteria, Halstead was telling his story again. The one about Fallujah. The one where he had been the hero. 3 tables of day shift nurses listened with the polite glaze of people who had heard it 40 times and were not allowed to leave. Erin ate her soup. She had been working at the Webster VA for 14 months. Floor nurse, rehab wing. The job they had offered her after the medical board cleared her for civilian work. 46 surgeries. 2 years of recovery. A right leg that ended 4 inches below the knee. A psych evaluation that ran longer than her physical. The VA had hired her because she had a nursing degree from her enlistment years, and because the rehab director thought a wounded vet on staff would be good for morale. Halstead had been hired 3 months later. Nobody at the Webster VA knew Erin Vance had once been Senior Chief Petty Officer Vance, United States Navy. Nobody knew she had spent 11 years as a Master-at-Arms attached to Naval Special Warfare. Nobody knew she had run the K-9 program at NSW of Group 2 out of Little Creek for the last 4 years of her career. Nobody knew the name on her chart at Walter Reed had been redacted by request. They knew she limped. They knew she was quiet. They knew she ate alone. That was the deal she had made with herself. That was the deal. Vance. She looked up. Halstead was standing over her table now, coffee in one hand, that particular smile on his face, the one that said he was bored and had decided to entertain himself. "You hear me earlier?" "I heard you, doctor." "And?" Erin set down her spoon, looked at him without expression. "And what?" Halstead's smile got wider. He liked it when she made him work for it. He pulled out the chair across from her without asking. Sat down. Set his coffee on her tray like it belonged there. "I was wondering," he said, "if you ever think about applying yourself." "Sorry." "You know, career-wise. Floor nursing is fine for some people. But a girl like you, what are you, 32? 33? You are young. You are not bad-looking when you fix your hair. You could go back to school, get your APRN, move up." He sipped his coffee. "Of course you would have to stop limping around like a wounded bird. Patients do not trust a nurse who looks like she belongs in the bed." Erin breathed in through her nose, out through her mouth. The breath count her therapist had given her at Walter Reed. 4 in, 6 out, 4 in, 6 out. It was not anger that needed managing. It was the other thing. The thing she had been trained to manage for 11 years. The thing that had killed 2 men in the Hindu Kush before she had been able to count to 10. She smiled, small, polite, the smile of a woman who was beneath notice. "Thank you, doctor. I will think about it." Halstead nodded like he had accomplished something. Took another sip of his coffee. Then he stood up, picked up the coffee, and dropped his used napkin on her lunch tray, right on top of her salad. "Do not forget to throw that out for me, sweetheart." He walked away. The cafeteria was very quiet for a few seconds. Erin picked up the napkin, folded it, set it on the corner of the tray, picked up her spoon again. A young nurse 2 tables over caught her eye. Janelle, maternity wing, mother of 3, the only person in the building who said good morning without looking through her. Janelle mouthed 2 words. "I am sorry." Erin nodded once. The smallest nod, the kind you give when you cannot trust your face to do anything else. She finished her soup. Her hands did not shake. Her hands had not shaken in 12 years. Not once. Not when they pulled the first piece of shrapnel out of her thigh in the field hospital in Bagram. Not when they signed the medical retirement paperwork. Not when they buckled the prosthetic on for the first time and tried to walk and fell 3 times in front of 2 physical therapists who pretended not to see her cry. Her hands belonged to another woman now. A woman who had been trained for 11 years to do small, careful tasks under fire. The hands had not forgotten. The hands kept the deal. It was the chest that betrayed her. The chest that woke her up at 3 a.m. The chest that had cost her 2 relationships and a marriage. The chest that her therapist at Walter Reed had said would soften with time and had not softened. The chest stayed locked. The hands kept moving. Outside the cafeteria windows, the sun was high and white over the parking lot. November. Cold air, bright sky. A jet contrail traced a slow line across the blue. Erin watched it without watching it. Her hands rested on her thighs under the table. The right hand on the prosthetic, the left hand on muscle and bone. Both hands steady. They were always steady. The PA system crackled. "Attention, all staff. Attention, all staff. Please be advised the official Department of Veterans Affairs liaison visit scheduled for 1400 has been moved to 1330. Visitors will be entering the main cafeteria for the meet and greet. Please ensure tables are cleared and the floor is clean. Repeat. Visit moved to 1330. Erin glanced at the clock above the salad bar. 13:26. 4 minutes. Around the cafeteria, people started moving. The day shift nurses began clearing trays. Halstead, halfway to the exit, stopped and turned around with a frown. He hated being told to clean up after himself. 2 custodians appeared from the kitchen with rolling mop buckets. Janelle started wiping down her table. Erin stayed where she was. The cafeteria emptied of trays and filled with quiet purpose. Whoever was coming was important enough to bump a schedule by 30 minutes, important enough to make Halstead nervous. She kept eating her soup. A second announcement followed. All staff, please be advised our guest is Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway, Commander, Naval Special Warfare Command. The Admiral is visiting on official business and will be touring the rehabilitation wing, following the cafeteria meet and greet. Department heads, please report to the main entrance. The spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. Erin set it down very carefully. Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway. She knew the name. She knew the man. She knew the boy he had been before he was the man. JG Lieutenant Holloway, 26 years old, on his first combat deployment with SEAL Team 5 out of Coronado. He had been the youngest officer on the rotation. He had been so green, he had asked her 3 times in pre-mission briefings what the dogs were supposed to do if a target dropped a weapon. She had told him the dogs do what I tell them. He had nodded like a man memorizing scripture. That had been 12 years ago. June. The valley west of Asadabad. The valley nobody talked about. The valley where she had taken 6 pieces of shrapnel in the right leg and 1 in the left hip and 1 in the back of her neck, and had still managed to drag a 26-year-old JG out of the kill zone behind a culvert and hold pressure on his femoral artery for 43 minutes until exfil came in. He had lived. 6 other men had not. She had not seen him since the field hospital in Bagram. She had been intubated. He had been conscious. He had held her hand. He had cried. She did not remember if he had said anything. The morphine had been too heavy. 12 years. Vice Admiral. Erin looked down at her hands. They were still steady. The body had been trained well. The body did not betray. But something in her chest was not steady. Get up. Leave. Take the back hallway. Go to the rehab wing. Find a patient who needs vitals. Find anything. Be anywhere but here. She started to stand. The cafeteria doors opened. The first person through the door was a security officer in a black blazer with a coiled earpiece. Then 2 Navy commanders in service khaki. Then a small woman with a tablet and a press badge. Then a master chief in dress blues. Then a Navy captain. Then him. Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway walked into the Webster VA cafeteria the way a man walks into a place he owns. He was taller than she remembered, broader. The dark hair at his temples had gone iron gray. The face was harder, the jaw still sharp, the eyes still the same color, the eyes she had stared into for 43 minutes in a culvert while she counted his pulse and told him to stay awake. He wore service khaki with 3 silver stars on each collar. The sealed trident pinned over rows of ribbons she could read at 20 paces because she had earned half of them herself. Bronze star with V. Purple heart with 2 oak leaves. Joint Service Commendation. Combat Action Ribbon. Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. She knew which one belonged to the valley. He scanned the cafeteria with the slow professional sweep of a man who had not let his guard down in a building since he was 23 years old. His eyes passed her without seeing her. She breathed. The hospital director, a soft man named Bramwell, hurried forward with his hand out. Holloway shook it. The presswoman raised her tablet. The Master Chief stayed 2 paces behind, and to the right of the Admiral, hands clasped behind his back, and then the dog walked in. Erin's breath stopped. The Belgian Malinois entered the cafeteria at heel position on the Master Chief's left side. Fawn coat, black mask, black tactical vest with subdued American flag, and the small white embroidered designation MWD. Ears up, tail straight, mouth closed, eyes forward. The walk of a dog who had been on 3 combat rotations and had not made a wrong step in his entire life. She knew him. Atlas. She had picked him out of a litter of 7 in a kennel in Lackland, 8.5 years ago. He had been the smallest of the males, 12 weeks old, ears too big for his head. He had walked across the concrete floor of the kennel and sat at her feet without being told. The handler had laughed. The handler had said that one picks you, Senior Chief. She had named him Atlas because he carried the weight. She had trained him for 6 months. Bite work, tracking, detection, patrol, handler bonding. She had slept on the kennel floor with him for the first 2 weeks because he would not eat unless she was within 10 feet. She had carried him in her jacket through the rain. She had taught him every command he knew. And then her board package had come through. And then the valley had happened. And then she had been medevaced out of country with shrapnel in her neck and a leg full of titanium, and Atlas had been reassigned to NS because that was the deal she had made when she requested medical discharge. Her dog went to the program. Her dog stayed in the fight. She had not seen him since the day she put him in the kennel transport van outside Walter Reed and walked back to her hospital bed in a borrowed wheelchair. She had cried for 45 minutes that night. The only 45 minutes she had cried in 11 years of service. The only 45 minutes she had cried in 12 years since. The transport handler had been a young petty officer she did not know. He had taken the leash from her left hand because her right hand was wrapped in gauze and could not grip. He had said something kind. Something about how Atlas was going to do great things. She did not remember the exact words. She remembered Atlas turning around at the door of the van and looking at her one time. Just one time. And not understanding why she was not coming with him. She had told him to load. He had loaded. That was the last command she had ever given him. And now he was here. Atlas walked across the polished concrete at the Master Chief's heel. His head was forward. His ears were tracking. He was not looking at her. He had not seen her. He was working. Aaron sat very still. Do not move. Do not breathe loud. Do not let him scent you. He is on duty. He is not your dog anymore. He is the Admiral's dog. Let him pass. The party stopped at the center of the cafeteria. Bramwell made his little speech. Holloway said something polite. The presswoman raised her tablet. There would be photographs. Atlas sat at the Master Chief's left heel. Perfect form. Eyes forward. He was 9 years old now. Aaron could see the white starting in the muzzle, could see the slight thickness in his hindquarters that came from years of jumping out of helicopters and breaching doors. He was retired from active operations. She knew because the vest he was wearing said so. The white embroidered letters under the flag read MWD Ret. Working dog, retired, now a service companion to the Admiral. She had heard about it. 6 months ago. A trade publication. A short paragraph about Vice Admiral Holloway adopting his command's senior K9 upon the dog's medical retirement. She had read it in the rehab wing break room and closed the magazine and gone outside to stand in the cold for 10 minutes. Atlas's nose twitched. Aaron saw it from 20 feet away. The flare of the nostrils. The first deep draw. The second. She lowered her eyes to the table. It was not possible. He had been a puppy. 8.5 years ago. He could not remember her scent. Dogs did not work like that. Dogs remembered handlers. They remembered handlers of the recent past. They did not remember puppyhood handlers from 8.5 years ago, when they had bonded with 3 subsequent handlers and an admiral. He could not remember. Atlas's nose twitched again. His ears, which had been forward, slowly began to swivel. First to the right, then back, then forward, then to the right again. The Master Chief had not noticed yet. The Master Chief was watching the Admiral. Atlas's head moved an inch. Just an inch. Toward her. Aaron closed her eyes. She heard the small sound first. The smallest sound a Belgian Malinois can make. A whine that is not a whine. A breath that goes longer than it should. The breath of a working dog who has been trained for his entire adult life not to break formation under any circumstance, and is suddenly experiencing something for which he does not have a command. The Master Chief's hand twitched on the leash. Atlas whined again, louder. The cafeteria began to notice. The presswoman lowered her tablet. The captain turned his head. Holloway, mid-sentence with Bramwell, paused. did not stop, just paused. His eyes flicked sideways to the Master Chief, then to the dog. Bramwell laughed nervously. "Excuse me, Admiral, is the dog all right?" Holloway did not answer immediately. He was watching Atlas, the way a man watches a piece of equipment that has never malfunctioned and is now doing something it has never done. "Chief," Holloway said quietly, "report." The Master Chief looked down at his dog. "Working dog has alerted to something, sir. Scent of interest. Source? Unknown, sir." Atlas whined a third time. Longer, the sound of a dog at the absolute end of his discipline. Erin stared at her tray. Her hands were under the table. Her hands were still steady. Her chest was not. In the back of her head, the trained part of her, the part that had been a senior chief, said this: "He picked up your scent the moment he walked in." The HVAC pulled it across the room. He has been processing it for 90 seconds. He has been telling himself it is not real. He has been holding formation because he has been trained to hold formation against a confirmed scent until released. He is now at his breaking point, and his discipline is going to fail. The other part of her, the part that had slept on a kennel floor with a 12-week-old puppy and named him Atlas, said one word: "Run." She could not run. The carbon fiber leg under the table did not run. The carbon fiber leg walked. The carbon fiber leg got from point A to point B at a managed pace. There was no running. Atlas's head turned. She felt it before she saw it. Felt his eyes find her across the cafeteria. Felt the 8.5 years collapse into a single point. He looked at her. The Master Chief said, "Holding." Holloway said, "Easy, Atlas." Atlas whined a fourth time and broke. He came across the cafeteria at a dead run. 63 people looked up at the sound of nails scrambling on polished concrete. The leash snapped out of the Master Chief's hand. The Master Chief shouted a command that Atlas had been trained to obey his entire life. Atlas did not obey. He came across the room in 7 strides, past the salad bar, past the orthopedic table, past Halstead, who had stopped pretending not to watch, and now stood frozen with his coffee halfway to his mouth. Atlas came directly to Erin's table and slid the last 2 feet on the polished floor and put his head into her lap. He pressed his skull against her stomach and his shoulders against her thighs and his entire body into the space under the table and around her chair, and he made a sound she had never heard a Malinois make in 11 years of working with them. He cried. It was a high, broken animal sound, a sound of recognition, a sound of an absence ending. He pressed his head against her so hard the chair shifted. His tail did not wag. His whole body trembled. Erin's hands found him before her mind found her hands. The left hand on the back of his neck, under the vest collar, right where she used to scratch him when he was a puppy and could not sleep, the right hand on his muzzle, cupping his jaw, the way she had cupped his jaw the night he was teething and would not stop crying, and she had sat on a kennel floor in Lackland and held his face until he slept. She did not say his name. She could not say his name. If she said his name out loud, she would lose. The whole deal she had made with herself for 12 years would be over. She kept her mouth closed. Atlas pushed his head harder against her. His vest crinkled. His paws scraped the concrete. He kept making the sound. The cafeteria was completely silent. 63 people had stopped eating. The presswoman had her tablet up and was filming and did not seem to know she was filming. The Master Chief stood frozen in the middle of the room with the leash trailing from his hand. Bramwell had gone the color of old paper. Halstead had not moved. Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway took 1 step forward. He stopped. He had been speaking to the hospital director and had not yet turned his head to see who the dog had run to. Now he turned, slowly, like a man who had been trained to move carefully around things he did not understand. He looked across the cafeteria, past the empty space the dog had crossed, past the orthopedic table, past Halstead. He found her. Erin was looking down at the dog, her left hand on the back of his neck. her right hand on his jaw. Her face turned away from the room, so that all anyone could see was the auburn pixie cut, and the line of her cheekbone, and the small white blast scar on the left side of her neck. Holloway saw the scar. She felt him see it. Across 30 feet of polished concrete and silent staff and bright November light through the windows, she felt the moment the 4-star admiral of Naval Special Warfare looked at her neck and understood. He made a sound. It was the same sound Atlas had made. Higher, shorter. The sound a man makes when something he buried 12 years ago walks back into the room. "Mama?" Her face did not move. Mama was a call sign nobody had used in 12 years. Mama was what the operators at NSW's Group 2 called the woman who ran the kennel because she slept on the floor with the puppies and put a coat on the dogs in winter and threatened to break the fingers of any operator who handled a working dog incorrectly. Mama was what JG Lieutenant Holloway had called her in the culvert because she had been holding pressure on his femoral artery and singing under her breath, and he had been 26 years old and bleeding out and high on shock and morphine, and the only word that had come out of his mouth as he watched her face above him was Mama. She had not answered him in the culvert. She had been counting. Counting kept her from screaming. Counting kept her from going into shock alongside him. She had not answered. She did not answer now. But her hand on Atlas's jaw tightened, and the Belgian Malinois under her table closed his eyes and pressed his head into her belly and let out a long, shuddering breath, like a creature who had finally come home from a war that had ended a long time ago, and nobody had told him. Vice Admiral Holloway crossed the cafeteria. He did not walk fast. He walked the careful, slow walk of a man whose knees did not trust him. The captain behind him took one step to follow. The Master Chief lifted a hand to stop the captain. The Master Chief had figured it out. The Master Chief stayed where he was. Holloway stopped 6 feet from her table. He looked at the dog. He looked at her hand on the dog's jaw. He looked at her neck. "Senior Chief," he said. The word landed in the cafeteria like a piece of equipment falling from a great height. Erin lifted her face. Her eyes were green and dry. Her face was composed. The face she had practiced in the bathroom mirror at Walter Reed every morning for 8 months before she came back into the civilian world. The face that gave nothing away. She looked at the Vice Admiral. "Sir," she said. It came out small. The voice of a floor nurse. The voice of a woman who had not been called Senior Chief in 12 years. Holloway's jaw worked. The cafeteria heard the word Senior. The cafeteria heard the word Chief. 40 heads turned. Halstead's coffee cup slipped 2 inches in his hand, and a thin brown line ran down over his knuckle and dripped onto the tile. He did not notice. "Senior Chief Vance," Holloway said. Louder this time. The voice he used to give a speech. The voice he used to make a room understand. United States Navy, retired. He came to attention. In the middle of a VA cafeteria on a Wednesday afternoon, in front of 63 eating staff members and a press liaison with a tablet and a hospital director the color of paste, Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway, Commander, Naval Special Warfare Command, came to attention and rendered a slow, full, hand-trembling salute to a floor nurse with a prosthetic leg. "It is good to see you, Mama." Erin's left hand on the back of Atlas's neck did not move. Her right hand on his jaw did not move. Her face did not move. But something in her green eyes that had been frozen for 12 years cracked, and a single tear ran down the line of her cheek and disappeared into the fawn fur of the dog she had raised from a puppy. She did not return the salute. She was not in uniform. She was sitting down. There was a dog in her lap. There were rules about salutes, and she had spent 11 years following them. Instead, she said quietly, the only thing she could say, "Cinder." The cafeteria did not know what the word meant. The presswoman did not know. Bramwell did not know. Halstead did not know. The Master Chief knew. The captain behind Holloway knew. Atlas knew. Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway's hand came down from the salute and went over his mouth, and his shoulders shook one time, just one time. And then he steadied himself and lowered the hand. "Cinder," he said. "Yes, ma'am." He took 2 more steps, lowered himself slowly into the chair across from her. The chair Halstead had been sitting in 12 minutes ago. He sat down like an old man with a bad back. He put one hand flat on the metal table. Atlas did not move from her lap. The Webster VA cafeteria stood in absolute silence. Nobody ate. Nobody moved. Janelle from maternity had both hands over her mouth. Kowalski, the second-year resident, had stood up without realizing it. Halstead's coffee cup had slipped another inch, and now there was a small brown pool on the tile under his hand. The PA system crackled. For a half-second, Aaron thought it was another announcement. Another schedule change. Another routine interruption. Then the voice on the PA said the words every hospital trains for, and nobody believes will happen. Code Silver. Code Silver. Active threat. Main lobby. All staff, initiate lockdown. Code Silver. Main lobby. This is not a drill. There was a small pause. Then the sound came through the wall. It was not loud. The cafeteria was a long way from the main lobby. But the sound was unmistakable to the 4 people in the room who had heard it enough times to know what it was without needing to be told. Aaron, Holloway, the Master Chief, the Captain. All 4 of them heard the first crack of a rifle. Atlas lifted his head from her lap. His ears came up. His eyes went hard. The retired working dog who had broken formation 30 seconds ago to find his first handler now sat up beside her chair in perfect alert posture, and his entire body said the same thing his entire body had said in 100 mission briefings. Ready. Vice Admiral Holloway looked across the table at Senior Chief Petty Officer Aaron Vance, United States Navy, retired. He did not give an order. He did not ask a question. He just looked at her. She looked back. The auburn-haired floor nurse with the prosthetic leg and the blast scar on her neck and the trembling canine at her feet pushed her chair back from the table and put both hands flat on the metal surface and stood up. When she stood up, the limp was gone. The cafeteria did not see it. The cafeteria was already moving, chairs scraping, voices rising. Janelle reaching for her phone. Halstead frozen with coffee on his hand. But Vice Admiral Holloway saw it, and the Master Chief saw it, and Atlas saw it. The 3 of them had seen her walk this way before, a long time ago. In a different country. The cafeteria had 3 seconds of stunned silence before Aaron Vance broke it. "Listen to me." The voice was not loud. It did not have to be. It was the voice the operators at Nest Dollars Group 2 had learned to obey without thinking. The voice that had given commands in 8 time zones and 3 combat theaters. The voice that had not been used in 12 years. 63 people went still. "You will not panic. You will do exactly what I tell you. Anyone who runs into the hallway right now will be shot. Stay in this room. Get away from the windows. Move to the inner wall." The voice carried because everyone in the cafeteria heard the difference between the floor nurse who had been carrying soup 4 minutes ago and whoever was standing in front of them now. People moved. Janelle grabbed the closest nursing student by the wrist and pulled her toward the kitchen wall. Kowalski began herding orthopedic residents away from the windows. The 2 custodians dropped their mops. Bramwell stood with his mouth open and did not move until Aaron pointed at him. "You, Director, lock the kitchen entrance. Now. Move the patio doors. Heavy tables in front. Go." Bramwell went. Halstead had not moved. He was still standing where he had been when the salute came down. His coffee cup was on the floor now. A brown pool was spreading toward his shoes. His face had the particular blank look of a man whose entire interior story about himself was being deleted in real time. Aaron did not look at him. "Master Chief? Senior Chief? What is your name?" "Master Chief?" "Reyes, Senior Chief." "Reyes, floor plan, threat axis, status of dog." The Master Chief, who had been waiting for someone to take command, answered without taking a breath. Main lobby is 90 meters east through 2 sets of double doors. Threat is moving slow. Single shooter based on rifle reports. Rifle is AR pattern. Dog is mission ready. Dog stays with me. You are on door. I, Senior Chief. Captain. The Navy captain behind Holloway stepped forward. Castile, Senior Chief. Castile, comms, federal response. I want SWAT, FBI tactical, and Norfolk Naval Hospital trauma team. Tell them we are at the Webster VA cafeteria, and we have a code silver with an unknown number of casualties incoming. Tell them Vice Admiral Holloway is on site. Use his name. Move them faster. I, Senior Chief. Castile took 2 steps away and pulled his cell phone. Erin turned her head a fraction of an inch to the man at her table. Sir. Vice Admiral Holloway had not moved from his chair. He was watching her with an expression she could not read. The man whose femoral artery she had clamped 12 years ago. The man who now ran the most lethal special operations community in the United States military. I need you to do the hardest thing you have ever done, she said. I need you to stay out of my way. His jaw moved. He nodded once. You command this room from that chair, Admiral. You make decisions about evacuation. You do not engage. We did not bring you home from Afghanistan to lose you at a Wednesday lunch. Understood, Senior Chief. She did not say thank you. There was no time for thank you. She turned to the room. Anyone with medical training, hands up. 19 hands went up. Mostly nurses, 2 residents, 1 nurse practitioner from oncology. Janelle. Anyone with combat medic experience, hands up. 4 hands, all older. 2 men, 2 women. All veterans the VA had hired as part of the pilot program. You 4 with me. Center of the room. We are turning this cafeteria into a casualty collection point. Push the tables together. 3 rows. I want surgical surfaces. Janelle. Yes. You run intake. You get me names and demographics on every wounded that comes through that door. You triage with the green tags first. Anyone gray, you mark them and move on. Do not get sentimental. You hear me? I hear you. Good. The rest of you. Sheets, towels, anything cloth. Strip the kitchen, strip the laundry cart. I want pressure dressings ready. Kowalski. Yes, Senior Chief. You and the orthopedic table. There are crash carts in the rehab wing 30 meters down the corridor. Take 2 custodians. Push. Do not run. Bring me everything. AED, intubation kit, IV supplies, blood expander, every ampule of tranexamic acid in the building. Move. He moved. The cafeteria, which 30 seconds ago had been 63 people frozen in horror, was now a machine. Tables sliding, sheets tearing, voices calling out supply locations. A nursing student crying quietly into her shoulder as she ripped a pillowcase down the seam. Atlas pacing tight figure 8s at Erin's left heel without being told. Halstead finally moved. He stepped forward. His face had reorganized itself into something approximating authority. The doctor face. The face he used at staff meetings. Vance. Senior Chief. Whatever you are. This is a hospital. I am the senior physician on this floor. I will be running point on casualty management. You can assist. Erin did not look at him. She was zipping open a crash cart Kowalski had wheeled to her hip. Her hands moved through the contents at a speed that should not have been possible. Counting ampules, stacking gauze, pulling out a 14-gauge angiocath and a scalpel, and clamping them between her teeth while she dug for the surgical airway kit. Dr. Halstead. Yes. Have you ever managed a mass casualty event? I served in Iraq. That is not what I asked. I treated war wounded for 2 years. That is not what I asked. She turned her head and looked at him for the first time since she had sat down with her soup. Have you ever managed a mass casualty event from a hostile shooter inside a civilian structure? Halstead's jaw worked. No. Have you ever clamped a junctional hemorrhage in the field with nothing but your hands and a kitchen towel? He did not answer. Have you ever performed a surgical cricothyrotomy on a screaming patient with 40 seconds of survival window? I have read the procedure. You have read the procedure. The voice did not get louder. It got quieter. The cafeteria heard the difference. Every person setting up the casualty surfaces heard the difference. Janelle paused with a sheet in her hands. Dr. Halstead, you are going to stand at the kitchen entrance and you are going to direct ambulatory wounded to triage one with Nurse Janelle. You will not touch any patient who is bleeding. You will not give orders. You will not speak to me unless I speak to you first. If you interfere with my work in any way, I will have Master Chief Reyes physically remove you from this room. Do you understand? The cafeteria was watching. Halstead's face went through 3 colors, red, then white, then a kind of bloodless gray. Yes. Yes, what? Yes, Senior Chief. Go. He went. He walked to the kitchen entrance and stood next to Janelle with his hands hanging at his sides. Aaron returned to the crash cart. Vice Admiral Holloway, sitting in his chair 6 feet away, made a small sound. It might have been a cough. It might have been a laugh. Atlas's ear flicked toward him for half a second, and then flicked back to her. The double doors at the east end of the cafeteria burst open. The first wounded came through. A custodian. Young. Late 20s. Holding his left forearm with his right hand and bleeding through both. A rifle round had gone through the meat of the forearm and exited cleanly. He was not in shock yet. He was in the part right before shock where the body tells you everything is fine because the body has not done the math. Sit him down, Aaron said. Janelle, vitals. Tourniquet 2 inches above the wound. Mark the time on the dressing and marker. You have 90 seconds with him. Move. The next patient came through behind him, an elderly veteran in a wheelchair, hid in the left flank. The wheelchair was leaving a trail of dark blood on the polished concrete. The man who was pushing the chair was sobbing. Aaron pointed to a surgical table without looking up from the crash cart. Surface 2. Lay him down on his right side. Pressure on the entry wound. Do not move him off the chair seat until I tell you. I am coming. The man pushing the chair was sobbing harder now. He was a janitor. He had probably been pushing the veteran to physical therapy when the shots started. He had probably run with the chair the entire length of the building. Hey, Aaron said. She had not moved from the crash cart, but her voice cut across the room and landed exactly where it needed to. Friend, look at me. You just saved his life. Pressure on the wound, both hands, eyes on me. You hear me? The man nodded. Both hands went on the wound. He stopped sobbing. He breathed. She pulled the trauma kit out of the crash cart, slung the strap over her shoulder, took the scalpel out from between her teeth, and walked across the cafeteria toward surgical surface 2. It was not back. It would not come back for the next 43 minutes. The body remembered. The body had been trained for this exact event. The limp was for civilian life. The limp was for carrying soup trays at lunch. The limp was not for war. Atlas walked at her left heel with his ears up and his eyes on the kitchen entrance, and the cafeteria of the Roy A. Webster VA Medical Center watched the woman they had called the crippled nurse turn into something that none of them had words for. The east doors crashed open again. The shooter had come into the corridor. He was not large. That was what struck her first. The shooter who had killed 3 people in the main lobby and was now 20 feet down the corridor outside the cafeteria was not large. 5'9", 160 pounds, olive drab jacket, plate carrier, AR pattern rifle on a single-point sling, tactical eyewear pushed up on his forehead. Aaron saw him through the gap between the doors when he passed. She did not stop working. She had the elderly veteran on his right side on surgical surface 2, a clamp in his abdominal wall, her left hand applying pressure to the exit wound, her right hand packing combat gauze into the cavity. The man who had been pushing the chair was holding the veteran's hand and whispering to him in Spanish. Aaron spoke without looking up. Master Chief. On it, Senior Chief. Reyes was already at the east doors. He had taken cover behind a metal table he had flipped on its side. His sidearm was drawn. A Sig Sauer. Standard Navy issue. He was a Master Chief who had run 3 rotations of K-9 operations and probably had 20 years of CQB training. He could hold the door. Aaron pulled another 4 inches of combat gauze into the abdominal wound and clamped the bleed. The elderly veteran was going to live if she could get him to a surgical theater in the next 19 minutes. The trauma team out of Norfolk was 8 minutes out by helicopter. The math was tight, but the math worked. She lifted her head. Atlas. The dog's ears swiveled. Heel. Reyes. Atlas crossed the cafeteria at a trot and took up post at Master Chief Reyes' left side. The retired working dog who had not been on an operation in 14 months slid back into the position he had spent his life in and froze. Reyes did not look at the dog. Reyes did not have to. The dog was where the dog was supposed to be. Janelle. Yes. Take over pressure here. Both hands on the gauze. Do not let go. Talk to him. Keep him with us. Janelle came. Janelle took the gauze. Janelle put her face 6 inches from the elderly veteran's face and started telling him about her 3 children. The veteran's eyes focused on her. Aaron stepped away from the surgical table. She pulled the scalpel from her teeth. She did not have a weapon. The room did not have a weapon. The Master Chief had a sidearm and a working dog and a flipped table for cover. The shooter had a rifle and body armor and 20 feet of clear corridor. She walked across the cafeteria toward Reyes. No running. The walk she had been taught. Heel to toe. No wasted motion. Eyes on the threat. Hands loose. She stopped at his shoulder. Master Chief. Senior Chief. He has been outside the lobby for 2 minutes. He has not entered. Why? He is hunting. He cleared the lobby and now he is searching. Searching for who? Reyes' eyes flicked sideways, to the chair where the Vice Admiral of Naval Special Warfare was sitting. The Admiral whose photograph had appeared in 2 trade publications and 3 Navy Times articles in the last 6 months. The Admiral whose schedule had been listed on the Webster VA public visitor calendar this morning. Him, Reyes said quietly. Aaron closed her eyes for half a second. Castile. Senior Chief. The captain was at the inner wall with his cell phone pressed to his ear. He held up one finger and finished a sentence, and then crossed to her. FBI tactical is 6 minutes out. Norfolk trauma is 8. The shooter is here for the Admiral. Castile's jaw locked. Yes. Did the Admiral's office post his itinerary? Standard public release. Yes. Captain. I know, Senior Chief. That is going to be a conversation in 3 hours. Right now, I need you on the south doors. He has not cleared them yet. If he flanks, you are our only line. On it. Castile moved. Aaron turned to Reyes. He will breach in the next 90 seconds. He will use a flashbang first if he has one. He will come through the east doors low and right. Atlas takes the right knee. You take the left chest above the plate. I will take the rifle. Reyes' mouth opened slightly. Senior Chief. I will take the rifle, Master Chief. You will not stop me. We do not have time. He did not argue. He had spent his career working with operators who gave orders that did not have time for argument. He recognized the cadence. He recognized the math. The shooter had 30 rounds in the rifle and probably 2 spare magazines. If the shooter got inside the cafeteria, the casualty count would triple in the first 15 seconds. Reyes knew it. Atlas knew it. Aaron knew it. The only way to stop a shooter in close quarters with a rifle and body armor was to get the rifle offline. She positioned herself 2 feet to the left of the east doors, inside the door swing, behind the metal frame, in the dead space that a shooter clearing a room would not see for the first half-second of entry. The scalpel was in her right hand. The 14-gauge angiocath was in her left. She closed her eyes for one breath. In the back of her head, the part that had been a senior chief said this. You are 5'2". You weigh 112 pounds. Your right leg is carbon fiber. The shooter has 8 inches and 50 pounds on you. The only thing you have over him is 12 years of knowing exactly how a body fails when you put metal in the right place. She waited. The flashbang came through the gap. The bang was bright. The concussion hit her in the chest. She felt Atlas flinch behind her and then steady. Reyes had taken his eyes off the door for the half-second of the flash. The shooter had bought himself half a second. It was not enough. The shooter came through the east doors low and right exactly the way she had told Reyes he would. The rifle barrel was up and tracking. He scanned right. He scanned left. She was already moving. She came out of the dead space behind the doorframe at a full run. The angiocath went into the side of his neck above the plate carrier. Into the carotid sheath. Not the artery. The sheath. The bundle of nerves and vessels that did not kill a man but turned him off for 9 seconds. His head jerked sideways. The rifle muzzle followed his head. She had 2 seconds. The scalpel went into the inside of his right wrist. The radial artery. A single cut. She did not slash. She placed it. The blade slid through the skin and through the artery and out again. The wrist opened. The hand on the rifle's pistol grip lost grip strength in 3 seconds. Atlas hit him at the right knee. The Belgian Malinois, who had been waiting for the command since the moment he scented her in the cafeteria, came across the doorway in a single bound and took the kneecap in his teeth. 80 pounds of working dog. 200 psi of bite pressure. The shooter went down. Reyes's sidearm came up and put 1 round in the left shoulder above the plate. The shoulder rotation that made the rifle a weapon stopped existing. The rifle dropped. Erin caught it before it hit the floor. She slung it over her own shoulder, cleared the chamber, dropped the magazine into her left palm, locked the action, set the rifle on the metal table behind Reyes. 6 seconds had passed since the flashbang. The shooter was on the polished concrete floor of the cafeteria, with a 14-gauge angiocath in his neck and a scalpel in his wrist, and a Belgian Malinois on his knee. And his eyes were open and unfocused, and he was bleeding from places that would not kill him but would stop him. Erin knelt next to him. She put her left hand on the wrist artery. Pressure. She put her right hand on the angiocath in his neck. Steady. Atlas, off. The dog released. Atlas, guard. The dog stepped 2 feet back and held position. Erin looked at the man on the floor. He was young, 24, 25 at the most. His face was wet with tears under the tactical eyewear. There was an old burn scar on the left side of his jaw. There were unit tattoos on the inside of his right forearm that she recognized. Marine Corps, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, a combat veteran. She closed her eyes for a half-second. What is your name, Marine? Caleb. Caleb, listen to me. I am a Navy combat medic. I have you. You are not going to die today. Do you hear me? He nodded. Who sent you here? His face crumpled. Nobody, he said. Nobody sent me. You came here for the Admiral. My brother. My brother died on his watch. Operation in Yemen, 2 years ago. Nobody told us anything. Nobody. They put him in the ground and nobody said anything. His voice broke. I just wanted somebody to tell me what happened. Erin closed her eyes. She had heard this story before. Different name, different theater, same story. The grief of military families who lost a kid and never got the after-action report and turned the grief into something heavy and then something sharp. She had lost 2 of her own that way. She did not move her hands from the angiocath or the wrist. Caleb, the Admiral is sitting 20 feet from us. He's going to talk to you. He is going to tell you what happened to your brother. He owes you that. But I need you to live long enough to hear it. Are you with me? Yes. Reyes. Senior Chief. Restraints. Then take over pressure on the wrist. Reyes came forward with zip ties from his belt, took the wrist, held the pressure. Erin stood up. Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway was on his feet. He had been on his feet since the flashbang. His hand had gone to his side where a sidearm would have been if he had been carrying one. He had been frozen for the entire 8 seconds of the engagement. His face was the color of paper. Aaron walked across the cafeteria toward him. The limp was still gone. She stopped 6 feet from him. The same 6 feet he had stopped from her 31 minutes earlier. "Admiral, Senior Chief, there is a Marine on the floor by the east doors. His name is Caleb. His brother died on your watch in Yemen 2 years ago. He needs you to talk to him." Holloway's jaw moved. "Senior Chief. He came here because he could not get answers any other way. He is 24 years old. He just lost the rest of his life because he did not get a phone call he was owed. You are going to go give him that phone call now, while I work on the other patients." Holloway looked at the young man on the floor. He looked at the Belgian Malinois standing guard. He looked at the Master Chief holding pressure on a wrist artery. He nodded. "Yes, Senior Chief." He walked across the cafeteria toward the Marine on the floor. Aaron turned to Surgical Surface 2 and went back to work. The wail of helicopter rotors was coming down out of the November sky. The Norfolk trauma team came in through the rooftop helipad 62 seconds later. FBI Tactical breached the main lobby 70 seconds after that. They cleared the building floor by floor and found nothing else. There had only ever been one wounded brother of a dead Marine, and now the brother was alive and zip-tied on the floor of the cafeteria with a 4-star admiral kneeling next to him, talking quietly about a man named Daniel Bishop, who had died on a beach in Yemen on the 3rd of April 2 years ago. Aaron did not hear the conversation. She was inside the chest of the elderly veteran on Surgical Surface 2. The Norfolk trauma surgeon, a commander named Park, had come into the cafeteria with his team and stopped at the surface and looked at the field surgery she had performed and said one sentence. "Who did this?" Janelle pointed at Aaron. Commander Park looked at the auburn-haired floor nurse with the bright blue scrubs and the prosthetic leg and the blood up to her elbows. "Ma'am." "Senior Chief Petty Officer Aaron Vance, United States Navy, retired. I packed the abdominal cavity with combat gauze, clamped the inferior epigastric, and ran tranexamic acid IV push. He has been hemodynamically stable for 4 minutes. Senior Chief." "Commander." Park looked at her for a long second. Then he said, "Will you scrub in with us at Norfolk?" The man pushing the wheelchair had not let go of the veteran's hand the entire time. "I will follow you to Norfolk and brief your team. He is mine until you have him in the operating theater." "Aye, Senior Chief." They loaded him onto the gurney. Atlas walked at her left heel as she walked beside the gurney to the corridor. The Belgian Malinois had not left her side since he had broken formation. He was not going to leave it. She stopped at the east doors of the cafeteria and looked back. The room was different now. 15 wounded had come through the cafeteria in 40 minutes. 3 critical, 12 stable. Janelle was sitting cross-legged on a surgical table with a bottle of saline in her lap, weeping quietly. Kowalski was on a phone with someone at the State Medical Board. Castile had 2 FBI agents in a corner with a tablet. Reyes was standing over Caleb Bishop with a hand on the Marine's shoulder, while the medics worked on his wrist. Dr. Halstead was sitting alone at a table by the window. He had not moved since she had sent him to the kitchen entrance. Janelle had quietly relieved him of triage duty 20 minutes in. He had sat down at the table, and he had not stood up again. He had a coffee cup in his hand. He had taken it from somewhere. He held it like a man holding the last thing he had. Aaron walked across the cafeteria to his table. She stood across from him. The seat she had occupied during lunch was on the other side. The seat the Vice Admiral had occupied was empty between them. Halstead did not look up. "Dr. Halstead." He looked up. He had aged 5 years in 40 minutes. The skin around his eyes had gone slack. The hand on the coffee cup was shaking. She did not sit down. "You will resign by the end of the week." He opened his mouth. "You will write a letter to the hospital director apologizing for the conduct that has been documented by 4 staff members and 3 patients over the last 14 months. You will not name me in the letter." You will not contest your resignation. You will not seek another civilian medical appointment. He closed his mouth. In return, I will not contact the Marine Corps representative I served with in the Hindu Kush, who was at Fallujah during the operation you described to Nurse Kowalski as your own. I will not contact him because I do not want to spend the next 2 years giving a deposition, but I want you to understand that I could. Admiral Holloway, who was at Fallujah, has now heard your story, and I want you to spend every day of the rest of your life understanding that the people you ridiculed knew exactly who you were. His hand on the coffee cup spasmed once. Senior Chief. Doctor. I am sorry. I do not need your apology. She looked at him for one more second. Then she turned and walked away. Atlas walked at her left heel. Vice Admiral Daniel Holloway found her 3 hours later at Norfolk Naval Hospital. She had finished briefing Commander Park's surgical team on the elderly veteran's status. The veteran was going to make it. The Marine, Caleb Bishop, was in custody in a separate wing under federal supervision and would not see the inside of a cell for at least 18 months, while a panel of military psychologists and federal prosecutors decided how to handle the grief that had brought him to a VA cafeteria with a rifle. The young Marine had asked to speak to her before they took him away. He had cried into the bandage on his wrist and said thank you. Erin had said nothing. Her hand had rested on his head for one moment and then taken it away. She was sitting on a bench in the courtyard outside the trauma wing when Holloway came out. He sat down next to her. Atlas, asleep at her feet on the cold cement, did not lift his head. For a long minute, neither of them spoke. Erin. Daniel. It was the first time in 12 years either of them had said the other's first name out loud. I am sorry. She did not answer. I came looking for you 4 years ago. I sent 2 of the team to Walter Reed to ask after you. Your file had been sealed at your request. I respected that for a while. I should not have respected it for as long as I did. You did the right thing, Daniel. I left you in a culvert. You did not leave me in a culvert. I gave you to the medevac. There is a difference. You took 6 pieces of shrapnel. You were intubated for 9 days. I have your medical record on my desk in a drawer that I have not opened in 8 years. I know. He looked at her. The light through the November trees made the gray at his temples look like silver. I want to offer you a position. I know that too. Naval Special Warfare is standing up a combat trauma response program. K-9 integrated, veteran integrated, civilian crossover, the first of its kind. I want it embedded with the Webster VA. I want you to run it. She did not answer. I want Atlas to stay with you. Officially. I will sign the transfer paperwork tomorrow. She looked at the dog at her feet. The dog opened one eye and looked back at her and closed the eye again. Daniel. Erin. I am not in uniform anymore. I do not need you in uniform. I have 1 leg. I have 1 senior chief who I owe my life to, and a working dog who broke discipline for the first time in 8 years to find her. I do not have a problem with 1 leg, Senior Chief. She breathed out. The November sun was low over the courtyard. The shadow of a hospital wing was crossing the bench. She could smell the salt off the bay a half-mile to the east. Atlas was breathing slowly at her feet. She thought about the cafeteria, about Halstead with the coffee cup, about Caleb Bishop on the floor with his brother's dog tags inside his shirt, where she had felt them when she put pressure on the wrist artery, about Janelle weeping on the surgical table, about Kowalski stepping up. She thought about the deal she had made with herself 12 years ago, the deal to be quiet, the deal to be invisible, the deal to be less than what she was so that the world would not ask her to do this again. The world had asked her to do this again. She had said yes without thinking. That was the answer. The deal was over. Yes, Admiral. Holloway did not smile. The smile would come later. Right now he just closed his eyes for 1 second and opened them and nodded. Thank you, Senior Chief. I have 1 condition. Name it. I keep the floor nurse job at the VA. Half-time. I am not giving up the floor. The floor is where the patients are. Done. And I want Janelle on my team. Maternity nurse, 3 kids. You will pay her like the senior staff she is. Done. He stood up. He looked down at her on the bench. He looked at the Belgian Malinois at her feet. It is good to have you back, Mama. She looked up at him. For the first time in 12 years, a small, dry smile moved across her face. It is good to be back, Cinder. He walked away across the courtyard. The November light was on his service khaki. The 3 stars on each collar caught the sun. Atlas opened both eyes and watched him go. Erin reached down and put her hand on the dog's head. He pressed up into her palm. The way he had pressed up into her palm in a kennel in Lackland 8.5 years ago, when he had been 12 weeks old and had decided she belonged to him. She sat on the bench in the November sun for a long time. Then she stood up. The limp came back when she stood. The carbon fiber leg under her right knee did not know how to walk without a small hitch. The body was tired now. The body had earned the limp back. She did not mind the limp anymore. The limp was the receipt for a culvert in the Hindu Kush. The limp was the receipt for 43 minutes of pressure on a femoral artery and a JG lieutenant who lived and a working dog who never forgot her scent. The limp was the receipt for a life. She walked across the courtyard with Atlas at her left heel. The receipt for a life was not a thing to hide. It was a thing to carry. The end. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now, comment below, and tell me which city you are listening from